Well, we're back. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back.
Is it working? Is it working, Alex? Because we know what a mess you make of this now.
It's working for now, but I didn't hear you at first, so I thought there was something wrong with my end again. Welcome back to Stand Your Ground here on The Buzz. I'm your host, as always, Alex Benson, and we are joined by both members of the Mighty Whites podcast, Jack and Casey.
Right.
To paraphrase former Leeds owner Massimo Cellino, where's Daniel? Where's Daniel?
Dan has officially left Stand Your Ground on Sundays. Whether we will be moving to a different day or not is yet to be seen, but it doesn't look like Dan will be coming back to Stand Your Ground.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll see him at some point.
I'm sure if he's free, we'll manage to get him on.
I thought our rivalry was simmering at a nice place as well, but
WrestleMania is just around the corner.
Well, the two of us could have met in the Royal Rumble and stared down, looked at the sign that says "Stand Your Ground." I point at the one that says Sunday. He points to the one that says "Another Day."
It's a
we
very
both do our
specific
signature
sign.
taunts, whatever they are. My signature taunt being "Hello," but.
Yeah, and
Sorry, this is the wrong podcast, isn't it? That's the wrestling podcast we do.
But tune in on Wednesday.
I looked at Jack's t-shirt and I'm all confused now.
Yeah.
Well,
he's promoting the wrestling podcast we don't even do.
Better than ours, but
I don't
know. But one thing you should check out is my t-shirt. It says Manscaped. You should check out manscaped.com and use code SYG2020. You'll get yourself 20% off and free delivery. Play a quick promo video and then we'll get into some football. Yeah, so go on over to manscaped.com, thanks to the Buzz, and get yourself 20% off and free delivery using code SYG2020 at checkout. But it's been another strange week because we've had mixes of Premier League games, Championship games, and FA Cup that's kind of throwing me all out of sorts at the moment. I don't know what's being played when.
It doesn't matter about the Championship, does it? Who gives a shit about that?
Yeah, what sort of team would end up in the Championship? I mean, could never be my club.
You know what, though? With the game roundup, we might as well start with the team that could end up in the Championship. Arsenal 3, Newcastle 0.
Yeah, Arsenal are struggling.
Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang realising where the net is, finally. Been unusual to see him not banging goals in like he normally does.
Yeah, it was important for him to get a couple of goals, but just between this and yesterday's game at Villa, Newcastle are such a poor side right now. They're so terrible. It's leaving me 100% convinced that they're going to beat Leeds on Tuesday.
It's been interesting watching Arsenal because ever since that Chelsea game, they do look like a revitalised team. Apart from the Palace draw, which was also a terrible, terrible game. But no, it seems as if parachuting the young players in has kind of given them a lift, and Emile Smith-Rowe is looking so full of confidence at the moment for them.
Yeah, I was just going to say Smith-Rowe especially. Obviously, Bukayo Saka still looks great, but he's looked great for a year and a half now. Smith-Rowe getting this chance and he's properly seized it this time. He's had the odd game before, but this run of games in the side, he looks like I can't see any reason why he'd drop out the side anytime soon now.
Well,
because he's got a very mediocre manager.
To be honest, I had high hopes for Ainsley Maitland-Niles as well, but for some reason, Arteta's not a massive fan of him.
What you really need is you want to build a team made out of Bailey Peacock-Farrell in goal. You need the lad who played right back for Man City yesterday, Ainsley Maitland-Niles, Emile Smith-Rowe, and I want a double-barreled surname 11. Even though Emile Smith-Rowe isn't double-barreled, he's just got 2 surnames.
Yeah. By the way, I have to level with it that I didn't actually get a chance to watch the Man City game yesterday. I know what happened, but was it Taylor Harwood-Bellis?
That's the one.
Yeah.
We have a comment. John Gonzalez, what's up, guys? John from the Sports Authority.
The Sports Authority.
Are we being arrested?
I think you'll find that we are the Sports Authority.
Yeah, I did a article for the Buzz. My mid-season table predictions, and the 3 teams that I had picked to go down were Sheffield United, West Brom, and Newcastle was the other one that I picked, because I just think they're on such a low run of form that I'm about to say even Steve Bruce can't keep them up, but it's not like he's some sort of magnificent relegation fighting manager.
I don't think magnificent can be used to describe anything about Steve Bruce other than his authorship of books.
Oh, man, his murder mystery trio, or trilogy of books, I should say.
Yeah.
Wow.
World-class writing.
But one of them is not directly lifted from The Fugitive.
From one relegation fighting manager to another, Sam Allardyce loses 2-1 to West Ham. Not even West Brom. Sam Allardyce loses 2-1 to West Ham.
Well, in terms of media narrative, that is right, I believe.
I don't think footballers even play anymore. It's solely manager-driven now at this point.
Yeah.
To be fair, at this point in time, I want to see Steve Bruce and Sam Allardyce have a boxing match. If YouTubers can do it, why can't football managers?
To be honest, there's certain managers I would love to see Big Sam have a swing at. Thanks, John.
Cheers, John. Good talking to you, mate.
West Brom. I'm desperate to see where they are at the end of January, because as much as I love Rob Snodgrass,
spoiler: the relegation zone.
I meant more in terms of their squad, but their signings so far. I mean, fair play getting Champions League winning goalkeeper Andy Lonergan in. Might as well have got Ross Turnbull out of retirement as we spoke about last time. But not the signing so far of someone who's thinking, well, we're in a relegation battle here. What do we do? I know, get a slow, creative, wide man.
Hey, slow, creative, and wide. You just described me.
not the man part.
No, that'd be giving me far too much credit. No, basically, with West Brom, I know that he is good at what he does, Sam Allardyce. I can't actually... I actually have more respect for Sam Allardyce than a lot of people do, because he was innovative 20 years ago, but he hasn't moved at all. He's good at what he does, but it's not going to be enough with it, because he can do the Big Sam football if he's got a team that's made for him, and he's trying to do it with someone else's team, and it just isn't the same. Like, in this, they've managed to get a goal for, at West Ham, but they only actually had 2 shots on target. And it doesn't matter how well you defend. If you're not creating any chances, you're hoping to hold on to draws. And draws aren't enough in the situation like that.
And that's we've spoken extensively about this. It's really not working for Sheffield United. And I can't see it working out any better for West Brom at this point.
Yeah.
See, I wouldn't even say Sheffield United are holding out for draws. They just can't win.
I think they're holding out for draws because they can't score goals. That's my slogan on this show. They can't score goals.
Yeah. There's a more interesting game from Tuesday night anyway.
Yeah. You know, we were talking about Sheffield United and they can't score goals. They've only got one win this season. And, you know, the manager that's really in trouble is Frank Lampard because Leicester win 2-0.
Right. Do you mind if I'm like a little bit smug?
Are you not always?
Yeah, true.
That's a fair point.
Yeah. If you can't go, knock. Look, Frank Lampard last season did a much better job than I thought he would do. But there is no measurable statistic, no style of play on the field, nothing about the way he handles himself. There is nothing that makes him in any way appear to be any better than an average manager. And that's being kind. He is just not very good. And did you see him after the game? Liam Toomey from The Athletic asked him a very bog-standard question. And he went off at him going, well, it's, you know, the players would be lacking confidence if I read some of the stuff you put out. It's, you know, having a real go at him for asking a very normal question about, you know, the poor performance on the night. What's he expecting him to write? Oh, Chelsea were really unlucky today. They were shite and they got beat easy. What does he want him to say? And like that's him having a go at The Athletic for their reporting on him. When earlier this season, they did like a 5,000 word massive piece on how amazing Frank Lampard is and how we should all worship the ground he walks on. So if they're too negative for him, goodness knows what he thinks about reality.
No, I always feel once you start having a go at the journalists, you're on a fairly downward trajectory at that point because we've spoken a lot about Lampard's post-match comments of the first time, and I think it was the Arsenal game when he said, you know, realistically, this all comes down to me. And you were like, that's fine. That's what managers do. And then within about 10 seconds, he'd gone, but the players have certainly got to go away and, you know, think about this performance and how disappointing it is. And you're like, look, I know as a manager, I dare say once you get in the dressing room, you don't just walk in and say, that's my bad, boys. You know, that's on me. Like, players have to be held accountable, but you hold them accountable in private. And week after week, Lampard's having a go at his squad. And he's on about, you know, Liam Toomey and his negative comments and things like that, and saying players read articles and they read stuff on Twitter. I'm like, they don't need to, mate. They just need to listen to you speaking 10 minutes after a game.
Yeah, I was completely fooled by a fake Chelsea account that put up a tweet saying that Frank Lampard had been let go after I was like, oh my God, I'm going to tell everybody about this, and then clicked onto it, and it was by like Chelsea FC.
Yeah.
Fucking hate recommended tweets.
Yeah. But no, the main thing with this is for just as much as like Chelsea had all of the ball in this game, and they did have a couple of chances, but it was just that whenever they lost the ball and Leicester came forward, Leicester looked so dangerous at all times. It looked as if Chelsea were playing no men in midfield, and trust me, as a Leeds United fan, when we play badly, we look like we're playing no one in midfield. We have the same problem. But our squad didn't cost hundreds and hundreds of millions of pounds in the set. And it isn't a nothing squad, but it's nowhere near the same level of squad. If you're managing to make a midfield that involves, like, you know, players like N'Golo Kante and Kai Havertz and Mason Mount, and you've got no one in midfield, that's the system.
Yeah.
And you can choose to go for it and leave a gap in midfield. But that's not what this was. This was just the whole game not being in the correct shape for the game. So it's poor coaching, it's poor management.
Do you agree with the sentiment, though, that players like Kai Havertz, I'm not going to say Thiago Silva, because I think Thiago Silva's been quite good since he's joined, but players like Kai Havertz and Timo Werner need a season under their belt to get used to Premier League football before we see the best of them?
before you see the best of them, yes, but it's not that we're not seeing the best of them. It's that they're currently being made to look like really average players, and they're not.
No, and Timo Werner at this point, I think his confidence is shot.
By the way, because he's missed a penalty as well today, hasn't he?
Yeah, he missed a penalty today, which won't have helped. Tammy Abraham getting a hat trick for them, but and I don't think it helps that when you spend that much money on a striker, and then you think, well, I'm going to play him wide. And you're like, but he's one of the best goal scorers in Europe at the moment. Like, play him down the middle, and then he's played wide, and he's shuffled things about a bit. And I just think if you're spending that sort of money on a player of that quality, it's tantamount to putting David Healy on the wing for Leeds in the Championship. Like, why have you got one of the best goal scorers in the Championship and thought, well, he'll do a job out wide?
Well, as soon as someone's got pace and they play in the Premier League, they are instantly a winger. That's just how it works.
There is a bit of that. One other thing that I know that we are going to be on about transfers, but just because we're on the subject, also how you can be picking Christensen and Rudiger and shipping Fikayo Tomori off to Milan.
No,
yeah, it's just absolutely beyond me.
I'll say now, one, I think it's as we spoke about, me and Alex spoke about last time. I can't remember if you were on last time, Jack. Your appearances are so.
Obviously, I don't remember you. I know I was on recently. It might have been last week. It might have been week before. It's just that, COVID, the days of the week are gone.
To be fair, his last episode were about 20 minutes ago, but we had to cut it short.
But Tomori, I mean, we certainly talked about him on the Mighty Whites podcast about I think both agreeing that we would like him, but it would also it just wouldn't happen. We already have 4 centre backs on the books, which for Marcelo Bielsa is at least two too many. But wherever he went would have been, would be so glad to have him. He's that talented. And I think it's good for him going to play in Italy as well, as I said last time, about young players going abroad and getting that experience. And I know it's not the season-long loan, but he's there for a good 3-4 months now, and I think it'll be a good experience for him.
If you are going to send a defender to any league to try and learn to play a more defensive style of football, yes, send them to Italy. And I think him and Robert Knoll is the main centre-back that AC have got. Those two could have a great partnership.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, it doesn't help. I'm going to say it doesn't help. It helps having Donnarumma in goal behind you as well.
Yeah, he's an okay goalkeeper, that kid.
Yeah, that kid that's got over 200 appearances.
What is he now? Is he 22 yet?
I think he's 21.
He's the new Iker Casillas. I always want to say Casillas, not Iker Casillas at this point. But I will say there's something very nice when you look at the Serie A table and you just see Inter and AC Milan at the top 2. It feels normal again, like my childhood.
Yeah, it does. But unfortunately, Man United are up there as well. And that also reminds me of my childhood, but in a much worse way.
Yeah.
To be fair, I didn't know Man United played in Syria.
I don't know. You look at Inter Milan's team.
Yeah, Man United B. So we'll move on to Wednesday's games. And Leeds United played a really, really great postponed game against Southampton, and it's the best result you've had in a while.
Wonderful football. Marcelo Bielsa's all-out attack versus the sheer pressing of Southampton. Oh, it was like a basketball game. It was amazing. It was actually 9-9. You just think that it's a P.
City picking up a 2-0 win against Aston Villa. This is the game that they should have played on the opening day of the season. But only just, to be honest, and I think this is a theme of City's recent results of picking up wins in like the last 10, 15 minutes.
There's certainly the offside decision or lack of offside decision I think needs to be talked about for this one.
Yeah. Right. Technically, it's onside. I hate that rule.
Yeah. I suppose technically what I meant to say is he was apparently onside. I just think that rule is bollocks.
Yeah, because once he gets it under control, they are the defensive team, and you cannot give an offside against a defending player. So there is a logic there, but that ball is aimed forward. He's the only player there. That's who it's aimed at. And he gains an advantage by coming from the blind side.
Yeah.
It's one of those where I get technically, and it's the way it is, but the way that rule is enforced, I disagree with. I think that the flag should have gone up before it even got to Mings. Because Mings, in order to play him offside, Mings would have to let that ball run. And as a centre-back, you're never going to let that ball run.
Yeah.
Now, also, it is bad play from Mings. He had time to control that and play a pass. So it is bad play from him, but that rule winds me up. It don't come up very often. I'm not with the same level of bugbear as I was over the last few years where it was, if you play a goal kick to a player in the box, it's just a retake instead of an indirect free kick. That was the rule I hated most in football, and they did get rid of it now. But this one I do very much dislike as well. It's stupid.
That was one of those where you're watching the players appeal, and even not being there, you can hear the pitch in the way they're asking the ref for the decisions. Just ref. No, ref.
You could certainly hear Dean Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who is now
well, it wasn't a second yellow. He got a yellow, and it was very quickly followed by a red.
Well, I did see what the quote was, but I can't remember exactly what it was. But I know that it involved a four-letter word beginning with C. That's right. He called him a cock.
I imagine the word would have been can't, as in he can't have been onside, ref. There's no way.
Yeah, there's one player for City, to be honest, that I've been quite impressed with recently, and I expected him to be like this when he signed from Dortmund, and he's had a few injury problems, but I think Gundogan's been quality for City the past 4 or 5 games.
Yeah, he's a really good player. He's Gundogan. I know it's his nickname, but that Silky Ilky moniker really does work. Like the way when he does beat a player and move, the way he really is brilliant to watch. And they'll need him over the next few weeks with De Bruyne being out.
Oh yeah, massively.
I mean, I still find it funny with City that I come away from most City games just looking at Phil Foden, just thinking, God, he's good, and that there are still times when Pep thinks, I can put him on the bench for a Premier League game.
Yeah, I still think he could benefit from a season-long loan under Marcelo Bielsa.
I still think it were harsh of him when he were one game off getting a Premier League winners medal to not even fucking put him in the squad.
Was he only one game off a medal? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he were either 1 or 2 games off winning a medal, and if he'd have just been in the squad for the last 2 games, he would have won a medal, and Pep just dropped him for the last game completely.
Which is ridiculous, but I've also never heard... You don't hear managers speak as highly of players as Pep does about Phil Foden. You're just like, well, why don't you play him all the time then?
Yeah, it's almost it's like it's the way of doing it is slightly tweaked because it's generally extra positive, but it almost seems like gaslighting. No, you are. He's really good. He's a great player. Is he playing? No, absolutely not. But
no, I can't keep his feet on the ground, for God's sake.
And the other game from that night, Man United 2, Fulham 1. My heart was in my mouth when Lookman scored, but we managed to pull it back. Cavani and Pogba getting the goals for us.
You see, this game was great for me because I only watched the first 15 minutes. So as far as I'm concerned, Fulham won this one then.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not even going to talk about it too much. The only thing that I'm going to say is Pogba seems to be having one of those phases where he's playing well again. And it's strange because it's coming up to a point where, he might want an extension on his contract.
Or a move.
He needs to look good in the summer for a move to Real Madrid or something.
Yeah. It's weird that, isn't it? Yeah, moving on. Liverpool lose their first home game in 68 games, 1-0 against Burnley.
It's me and Jack are two people who've played a lot of Football Manager know that when you're on a fantastic run, it's never an end-to-end ding-dong battle against a title challenger that you lose that record to. It's always someone shit that comes in and you start going, well, we've got this one in the bag before we've even kicked a ball, lads.
Yeah. Don't you talk about Ashley Barnes like that.
Listen, when I was trying to think of his name, Ashley is the third Barnes I think of before. Before him is Harvey, and somehow Giles Barnes is ahead of him in the pecking order of the Barneses I think of. Says a lot for John Barnes that he's fourth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ashley Barnes, that well-known Austrian international, scoring a penalty in the second half. To be honest, I mean, you could see it coming a mile off that this run had to be Burnley or, I don't know, West Brom. Someone was going to get a 1-0 win.
Yeah, the performances have dropped off. So the record was going to go, I can't remember, because the record is Chelsea, and I think that's about 84. Something like that.
Yeah. Is that peak Jose Chelsea?
Yeah, peak Jose for home games unbeaten. And they the performances this season haven't been what they were last season. So you did think they were going to lose one eventually. But it doesn't take away from that. That is a staggeringly good achievement. To go that long unbeaten at home is a fantastic... And it's not like that... Leeds fans always use this as the example because it's the best one. It's not like Huddersfield's unbeaten run in League One where they went 40 games unbeaten, started in 4th and finished in 6th. Because they drew them all. They won things while doing it. It's a fantastic run. And between this game and the one tonight and just some of the performances, as much as I am loath to say, it's because of injuries and stuff, they are missing having their centre-backs. Well, they're missing having that centre-back, really.
To be honest, this brings me on to one of the topics. We'll continue with the game roundup, but it's always a question in football is, can one player really make a team? Now, I don't think one player makes a team, but I think one player can make a team tick just that little bit extra. Like Van Dijk missing for Liverpool is massive. We've had Fernandes come in for Man United, and if we didn't have Fernandes, I'm sure we'd be about 9th. But is it necessity that one player can have a full team built around him and win things?
Oh, go on.
Nah, you go, mate.
I don't know. I always feel like if you talk about teams, essentially one-man teams, I don't think of top teams. I think of teams like Crystal Palace with Wilfried Zaha, who I think without Wilfried Zaha, that team quite possibly goes down. I think that's how important he is to them. I think if you look at the case of Liverpool, and Van Dijk is a very, very important player, but I do think Joe Gomez's absence is only a step below that as to how much it affects their team.
Yeah, I think Van Dijk has a much bigger effect, but they could cope so much better. If they were playing Gomez and Matip every week, it wouldn't be felt in the same way.
At this rate, to be honest, I wouldn't put Matip in. It would be Gomez and Fabinho because I think he's played quite well as a centre-back. He's great. What would you say? He's the Liverpudlian Pascal Schroik.
Just don't put him holding midfield. You'll be fine.
Yeah, well, I mean, to be fair, it's not the same level of difference as some of the other examples, but when we don't have Calvin Phillips, the same thing happens to us. We look a completely different team. I agree with KC that at the top level, I don't think there's any such thing as a one-man team, but you can have one player making a big difference for certain. I'm just trying to think of, for instance, for season, I think that you could have maybe one player be the difference between 6 positions. When Leicester won the league, take Kante out of that midfield and they're nowhere close. As brilliant as Mahrez and Vardy were, as well as Drinkwater played, all of that stuff. If you take Kante out of that team, they're 7th, 8th.
Right, come on, say the real star of that team, Andy King. Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be big money splashed on players that could be classed as that final part that a team needs. Like De Bruyne going to Man City was one of those final parts that Man City needed, and they had their 2-3 years of dominance.
What I would say is, and I think that it was more of a thing in previous years. Like, look, none of us were old enough to really see it, but by all accounts, the Napoli team that won the league with Maradona in it, it was Maradona just dragging them to titles. But by all accounts, now admittedly, I didn't get to see it, but I think that you got a bit more of that then than you do now.
Yeah. So we'll continue with this game roundup. We'll focus mainly on the Premier League games because on Saturday there was a Premier League game, but there was also FA Cup games. So there was the Villa 2-0 win against Newcastle. Ollie Watkins and Bertrand Traore getting the 2 goals. To be honest, probably could have been more than 2. But Bertrand Traore has quite surprised me with how well he's come back to the Premier League and how he's performing, because I really expected him to just come back and flop again.
Yeah, well, it was a bit weird off the field at Chelsea, because wasn't Bertrand Traore one of the people that got him the ban? Like, the way they brought him in was a bit iffy.
Probably.
But no, he looked really good. There's been a bit of rivalry between Leeds fans and Villa fans and stuff, but I don't like Villa by any stretch, but then I don't hate them either. They're a good side this year. They recruited really well in the summer. And in this game, it could have easily been a lot more than 2. And this was another example of Newcastle being awful. 2-0 down. And absolutely no effort to even attempt to get back in the game.
No. But I found... I understand there are limitations at Newcastle at the moment, but I think when you look at how they recruited in the summer, there was a few signings. You know, Callum Wilson seemed like a good signing. Lewis was another good signing, who was someone I would have liked Leeds to have possibly brought in. But honestly, it's just, I don't know what you look at this point in Steve Bruce's career and think, yes, Premier League manager, get him in, please.
Well, I'm guessing that what Mike Ashley looked at was, I like him as a bloke, he'll have a pint with me, and he's fairly cheap.
Probably.
I don't know
to finish 17th, and so long as he does that, he's...
I mean, there was the moment, I can't remember if it was from yesterday's game or if it was the last Villa game, where when Andy Carroll subbed off, he's just shaking his head like, why are you taking me? We're losing here. I know Andy Carroll really isn't the answer, but it's better than nothing.
Yeah, no, I'm fairly sure that was the Villa game because he went off with about 20 minutes left.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in the article that I wrote, I've put Joelinton will probably find his goal scoring touch in the Championship.
No, I don't think he will.
We'll touch on the FA Cup games because there was 8 yesterday, so we're coming into the last 16 finally. Southampton 1, Arsenal 0. Barnsley 1, Norwich 0. Brighton 2, Blackpool 1. Bristol City 3, Millwall 0. Sheffield United 2, Plymouth 1. Swansea 5, Forest 1. West Ham 4, Doncaster 0. And Man City 3 and Cheltenham 1. Cheltenham, who took Man City to the very, very depths of the second half. They were 1-0 up and conceded 3 in like the last 20 minutes.
Yeah, well, it happens. You're defending, chasing your ass off, running all over, and with 10, 15 minutes left, you're knackered. And, then the quality just shows through. They put in a really great... I only got to see parts of this game because of work, but it was a really good effort. And it's great to see Mike Duff doing well as a manager, as someone who played Champman 0102. Mike Duff is an absolute hero.
I just wanted to touch on... Oh, go on before we move on.
I was going to say it was one... This was the sort of game out that you always get a couple every year that are just... That's what the FA Cup was. Like, that's what it was. The dream story of someone who has no rights to be competing with the first division side or Premier League side, whichever way you want to look at it. And got the goal and like say, going into the last 10 minutes holding on to a 1-0 lead. And bless him, there's like Leeds run further than most teams do, but it's a completely different story when you're doing that running and you have most of the possession as opposed to doing all the running and barely having a sniff of the ball. And at that point, when you're playing against players of that quality, it is only a matter of time until there's going to be a breach.
Yeah. The other one that I got to see all of, I did watch all of Southampton Arsenal and thought Southampton were really good. I know Arsenal rested a few, but I thought Southampton were really good and well worth a win. And because of where they are in the table, I think they're a decent shout to win it. Because I think they'll be able to put out a full-strength team every round because they've got nothing to worry about.
Yeah, well, they're already going to win the Premier League, so it's just whether they want to go for the double or not. The question that I have for you, though, is West Ham scored 4 against Doncaster. Do you know who the final goal scorer was for West Ham?
I did see the goals.
I have not.
Because if you do, you know more than Sky Sports football app because they've got it down as unknown.
No, it was a young lad on his debut, and I only saw the highlights. It begins with an A, but I can't.
Yes, but they've got him in the lineup as number 40, unknown.
No, that's
Your
not
Sky
good.
Sports. Find out who this poor kid is.
Oladapo Afolayan.
Surely he must be on the back of a program or something.
Yeah.
You'd have thought that they sent the team through to him. Before big Champions League games, if you had Sky Sports News on, you've got the ticker at the bottom that shows you the team sheet. If he was starting, you can't have number 40 unknown on the wing.
I'd be okay with them doing that if it was like a qualifying round and it was like Estonia's third best team. I'd vaguely understand that, but it's West Ham.
I just can't believe that you would do such a thing as that, mate. That's really, really incredibly disrespectful to the Estonian league.
And the powerful nation of Estonia.
And most importantly, the fans of Levadia Tallinn are going to be all fucking over you.
Listen, Jack, I think we all know there's only one team in Tallinn.
Hey, that is an excellent reference for lots of people who remember.
So, yeah, Sunday's games, Chelsea 3, Luton 1. We already touched on Tammy Abraham getting a hat-trick. Him and Giroud pushing Timo Werner further and further down the pecking order. At this point, fucking Billy Gilmore's going to get a go up top before Werner scores a goal.
By the way, for what it's worth, just I don't think I've ever had a chance to mention, Billy Gilmore's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a really good footballer.
Brentford 1, Leicester 3. Again, another team that almost had enough to take Leicester out of this FA Cup, but then when it came into the second half...
I was just going to say, at this game, again, due to work stuff, I only saw the second half. So all I saw was Leicester batter Brentford.
Yeah, for the first half, to be fair, Brent.
It was 45 seconds at second half to get that goal. James Maddison was absolutely fantastic. He was good throughout the whole half, but for the first 15 minutes of that second half, he was just unreal.
Yeah, it'll be great when Chelsea spend 60 million on him and Leicester go and buy Todd Cantwell instead.
Nah, Todd Cantwell's crap. That's what Daniel Farke told Leeds fans.
No, in all seriousness, if you were going to look in the Championship, other than Buendia at Norwich, who's excellent, but they're not going to sell him chasing promotion at this stage. Michael Olise from Reading's the one you want.
Yeah.
He looks really good.
Burnley 3, Fulham 0, Jay Rodriguez getting 2, and Kevin Long with the third, sorry, not the second. And then the game that's just finished before we went live, Man United 3, Liverpool 2. So we've played them twice in space of a week now.
I would like to think that the two managers got together and came to an agreement that we cannot play out another boring 0-0 draw like that atrocious shite the other week. So should we both make a fist of this, shall we? And
yeah, it was a good game. This it was a really good game.
Yeah, to be fair, I mean, the amount of that Luke Shaw let Mohamed Salah get in behind him, like I said this last week when we went live. I think it was just me and KC last week. I was saying Eric Bailly's been playing really well next to Harry Maguire, so we decided for the Liverpool match to drop him and play Victor Lindelof. And again, Victor Lindelof just looked like he was missing for most of this match.
Yeah, you see, I must admit, although Salah did obviously get in behind a lot, I thought Luke Shaw did pretty well in this game.
Yeah, Luke Shaw seems to be all over.
Maybe I'm just being harsh, or maybe it's because I really like Alex Telles and I just want him to start.
Yeah,
all right, Jose, leave Luke Shaw alone, yeah?
No, but this game, like, it was really good. It was good. As much as I don't want you to win, it was good to see Van der Beek get to play a game because he's good. And I thought that you mentioned it earlier, but this Paul Pogba is a completely different human being to the one from a month ago. Chasing back, making good tackles, getting into good defensive situations, leading breaks, good passing. The Mason Greenwood goal it's a fantastic pass from Rashford to set it up. Sorry, I'm going to find it hard to get these words out. It was a bit shit from James Milner the way he tried to intercept that ball and missed it.
No, Jack, it's all right. I've got praise for him later. It's fine.
God, sorry, my mouth hurts now.
it's that moment, and I can't profess to know it myself because I was never one to, ever head a ball. But it's one of those where I've got this, and it just grazes the top of his hair. I just no. And he just took himself out. But I did think Milner redeemed himself with the build up to Salah's second. The little dummy he sold Harry Maguire for that. Just it was like Sheringham in the England-Holland game in Euro 96, but without him touching the ball, just that feigning the shot. Maguire goes for it, and just he's in a different time zone by the time it gets to Salah.
Yeah, he sold him a dream on that. It kind of annoyed me the way that we're going to talk about commentators, and I hate commentators anyway. But the James Milner chance where it bounces in the box and he's like jumping to try and volley it, and the commentator goes, "Yeah, he should be scoring that."
Yeah.
His foot's about where his shoulder should be. Why should he be scoring that?
It's a bugbear that a few people have. I'm trying to learn to tune commentary stuff out, but the problem, it turns out, is that when you do tune them out, you ignore all the normal stuff they say, and your brain only focuses in when they say something really stupid. Like, that's, come to think of it, like, I know it's going back, but I have to mention it. That Villa-Newcastle game, it must have been during that game. But yeah, they were on about... no, it was Villa. It was the Villa Man City game, because I've just remembered what he said. The Villa Man City game. The commentator, I can't remember who the commentator was, but the commentator said, Aston Villa last won at Manchester City in 2007. John Carew and Sean Maloney with the goals. And Steve McManaman cuts in and goes, "Yeah, that's right, under Paul Lambert." Now, Paul Lambert got the Villa job in 2012. And it's absolutely fine to not know who the manager was in 2007. It was Martin O'Neill, for what it's worth. It's fine to not know. But if you don't know, just don't say anything.
I mean, that's it. There's people who you read about, and obviously kind of your lead commentators will do a lot of research into the games they're doing. And I know reading Jeff Stelling's book as well, he'd always go, I think it was on like the Wednesday or Thursday before Soccer Saturday.
Have you ever looked at the of notes? They're unbelievable.
Oh, yeah. Because he basically said, well, I'm not good at working from home and I don't have an office. So he'd go to a service station, if I remember rightly, and just work for a day at a service station doing all his notes. And he's scribbling away as the games go on as well, and writing down what the other pundits are saying as well. And you can tell the difference between those who do the read. You know, there's very few times I'll ever sit and listen to Martin Tyler and think, this is bollocks, mate. Like, come on.
What it's worth, for the most part, it's not commentators, it's co-commentators.
Yeah.
Because all the commentators, to get into that position, they do their research.
Yeah.
You know, they might occasionally slip up or say the wrong thing. Like, I believe it was when that was the one that's why I had both games in my head. I think it was the Villa Man City game. The commentator mixed up Gundogan with Bernardo Silva, which was a bit of a poor mistake for the commentator, mate. But the commentator would go, "Yeah, I screwed up there. Sorry." But it's just a number of stuff you hear co-commentators come out with. It's because they don't do any. Not all of them. Some of them don't do the same level of research. Like, I remember Phil Hay telling a story about how before he did a Leeds game, Danny Higginbottom would always ring him up every time just to go through the things he's got, just to check that it's all right. And it probably had taken them an hour to ring a local journalist before they cover a game. But there's some of them do it and there's some of them don't. And it really sticks out when they don't.
Yeah, John Helm was another one who did a really great interview with the Square Ball podcast. And got on to talking about, he's someone who I think he still works for FIFA and does a lot of their commentary for youth tournaments and stuff like that. And as you can imagine, for that, we were, talking about the West Ham game where you're somehow getting a team sheet or presented with a team that has an unknown player, apparently. This man's commentating under 15s international tournaments. He was saying, like, he'll go to he'll stay at one of the team hotels the night before and try and get in with the coaches and have a chat with them and learn a rough attempt at saying some of the players' names in certain cases. But, that sort of dedication to it. And you still get, and I know he's a pundit turned co-commentator, but, you get someone like Gary Neville who is just, I think he is the best co-commentator at the moment. And I think he's head and shoulders above anyone else. But when you listen to certain people, you realise that there is different classes to this.
Yeah. I'd say an underrated one. I have a bias towards him, I'll admit, because of ex-Leeds, but Tony DeRigo's really good.
Yeah, and I find whenever I've listened to him doing the LUTV commentary, because it's LUTV, I do find him to be quite entertaining as well. He's quite a funny guy as well. But his punditry is quite good. But, you look at who does it at the moment, and now there's I think compared to recent years, there's a bit more of a cycle. Like, I think,
right, it's just because there's all 10 Premier League games are on instead of 4 or 5 of them, so they need more people.
But you find with some that I am here because I am an ex-player, and that is it. Whereas there are others who do bring well info. I know I've referenced him a few times now. That the couple of times I've ever heard Darren Fletcher do any sort of punditry, I think he's fantastic. I think that the detail that he speaks with is phenomenal. And there are other games. Yeah, now because he's Scum exclusive, isn't he? Now it's the way to phrase that one, I believe. And there are others who, I'm not here to necessarily have a pop at certain people, but I think that there's certain people who, especially, your Soccer Saturdays, and Match of the Day too, where it's always a bit more lighthearted, who will just find it to be very bland and will just literally talk you through what's happened instead of giving you the kind of the insider's perspective as to why has this happened and the details.
Yeah, you see it a lot. They'll show a replay and they'll go to the co-commentator to like analyze what just happened, and you go, "Well, you see, what he's done there is he's played the pass inside the fullback, and the wingers run onto it and crossed." That's not analysis. That's just saying what happened. The commentator did that already when it happened.
I want to ask you guys a question actually, because I think again at this point, Martin Tyler is your top tier commentator in this country. How I found him quite interesting since the pandemic and in doing it without a crowd there, because I find it to be a lot more conversational during games now, and I don't know if that's just a way to kind of fill the silence a bit more.
There is a little bit more of it, but that will be why, because on TV commentary, you're allowed to be silent for a bit and just let the game go. Like on radio, you obviously can't do that. But they have to fill the sound, because as much as the fake crowd noise is better than it was at the start, it's still not particularly good.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I do enjoy the kind of conversation that you get between him and Gary Neville, especially. I know you spoke about Gary Neville, but the way that him and Gary Neville like just get on while they're watching a match, it is like two mates are sat at a pub just watching a game, and every so often you'll just get a random comment from Gary Neville. Speaking of which, have you seen his bit on Sky Sports with Jamie Carragher when they're talking about Phil Neville taking the Inter Miami job?
No, I didn't see it.
I haven't seen this, but I have an opinion.
You can see it in his eyes, like he's so proud of his brother becoming a manager, and you can tell it's because of how shit he was as a manager.
But he's been a manager.
I'm sorry, did you just say proud of Phil Neville becoming a manager? He's been managing England for the last few years.
No, that's not what I meant.
The man fucking failed. He took a team that had already qualified for a World Cup and had a fairly established squad, and his MO was kind of transitioning the squad, and then they didn't make the next tournament.
That's not what I meant.
Right in the Neville wheelhouse.
Yeah. Right, let's move on.
No, I can sack Phil Neville off more.
So, we're coming to the back end of the January transfer window. We didn't expect there to be a lot of moves due to the pandemic, and not a lot of clubs wanting to throw money around. So we'll just go through. I'm going to shout some transfers that have taken place over the past couple of weeks.
Calm down.
And you're just going to tell me your opinion. But the first one and the main one that actually happened today, Mesut Ozil has left Arsenal on a free transfer to Fenerbahce.
Best for all concerned, really.
Not for Fenerbahce, because he's the owner of the club's come out and gone, yeah, we're in £450 million worth of debt. So if the fans can raise the money to pay his wages, why sign him?
Yeah, that is weird. I'm assuming that they must have done enough of the maths to know that this is doable. And I don't know what wages he's on at Fenerbahce, but he is a Fenerbahce fan, so I'm guessing that he's taken a massive drop.
Yeah. I to be honest, up until the end of last season, I just wanted Ozil to leave for the sake of Arsenal fans, because every year you got 10 prime Mesut Ozil performances where you go, God, he's good. And then the rest of the season you'd be looking going, fucking try. and then like since the pandemic hit, Gunnersaurus got the sack. He was like, well, while I'm here, I'll pay his wages then so we can keep Gunnersaurus around. And you were just there going, right, well, you know he has ties, and he's friends with the Turkish president, who is a terrible person by all accounts. Yeah, thank you. I was going to say Gundogan. I was like, no, not him. No, he's fine.
Although he did say a lot that Mesut Ozil gave quotes today saying he's going to consider himself a gunner for life, which is good because Erdogan likes gunners.
But yeah, I do think if you're Mesut Ozil, there must be part of you looked and went, I'm sorry, you're re-signing David Luiz, but I can't get in the fucking squad. Are you kidding me? You're going to pay me this much money to not play. Are you mad?
Yeah. And just think, this was done, like, what, 2.5 years ago? He was going to be out of contract. It was over. Arsenal said, we can't afford what his wages want to be. We're not re-signing him. No ill will. All good. And then they just bottled it and went, but he's quite creative. Here's 350 grand a week.
To be honest, I think he's one of those players where, you know what, I'm probably going to get a lot of stick for this, but I feel like Arsenal is quite a toxic club for a fan base. And this is not just based off...
No one's ever said that before.
Not just based off the fact of Arsenal Fan TV. But that mindset, those fans can't help a player want to try for a club. Like, I get that for some players it probably does rile them up. Like, you tell him that they're shit and they go, right, well, I'm going to show you. But for Ozil sat on 350 grand a week, tell him he's shit. He doesn't give a fuck.
I don't know whether it's not caring or anything. I just think the entire relationship had broke down. And once that's happened, even if you are putting in 100% effort, you're not going to be as good as you were when everything was going well.
Yeah.
I am looking forward to him just absolutely banging in goals and assists left, right and centre now for Fenerbahce, just playing somewhere where he's happy and loved. And it's just going to annoy Arsenal fans even more.
Moving on, a transfer that took place yesterday, Willian Jose has signed for Wolves from Real Sociedad on loan. The way that they announced it, the way that BBC said it was, former Tottenham transfer. Was it transfer? No, he'd never played for him, did he? So what was it?
Target?
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you. There you go. Let's
there you go.
Let's keep this train rolling.
Yeah, former Spurs target signs for Wolves. They needed a striker, and to be fair, Willian Jose has been one of those strikers that, like Aduriz, where he's just been banging like 10, 15 goals in a season in La Liga for like the past 10 years.
Yeah, you see, the Willian Jose one, I know that he's had a good record at Sociedad, but I haven't seen enough of him really to comment. But Wolves needed a striker, so...
Matty Ryan got a move from Brighton to his dream club of Arsenal on loan, but he can't wait to sit on the bench.
Good for him. He was sat on the bench at Brighton. If you're going to sit on the bench, it might as well be at the club you support.
And I tell you what, I know the Amex is a new stadium, but I bet those seats at the Emirates are comfy.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, as an away fan, I've never been treated better at the than at the Emirates, so I can only imagine what it's like to be on the bench.
One that I thought is an absolute quality signing, Jean-Philippe Maïta signed for Palace on loan from Mainz. I think he's a great striker.
We being Leeds, obviously, we were linked quite heavily with Mateta. From what I saw when I was looking into him when we were linked to him, he does look like a good player, and he looks like he'll suit him. And from what I can tell, he's better than Jordan Ayew.
Yeah,
and that's what I'm doing. Jordan Ayew is a decent player, but it appears from what I've seen, Mateta's better.
Yeah, you knew news people had to try and ring it out. They didn't know much about this French striker that's been playing in the Bundesliga, so their main headline was, it means Batshuayi and Benteke are on the chopping block.
Yeah,
poor Michy Batshuayi. He's been on the chopping block everywhere for the last 3 years.
Oh, Christian Benteke, he's just hit somewhat like a little bit of form. He's scored a couple of goals.
Listen, if you go on that sort of a barren run and then you score 5, I think someone's entitled to still think, no, I should probably replace this man. If we'd have looked at Billy Painter at the end of that second season, thought, oh shit, he scored 4 in his last 5. We might as well keep him as number 9 now. I'd have been concerned.
And Danny Drinkwater has left Chelsea on loan.
I missed that, has he?
Yeah, he's gone to Kasimpasa.
Kasimpasa?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he needs to try and do something somewhere.
To be fair,
has there been any worse £30 million signings?
Probably, but I don't. But I can't think of them. But
because we signed Bebe for under 30.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those careers that just fully came off the rails, and he had a lot going on in the last 2 years or whatever it is at this point, and then his first bit of first team football. First team football is not the correct use because it was the Papa John's Easy Bake Oven Trophy or whatever it was, like where it's him and a load of teenagers.
Yeah, was that the one where he ended up nearly scrapping with that kid? Even though he was well within his rights, that was a fucking leg breaker of a tackle.
Yeah.
But he had every right to be mad.
he actually, he did one of those Twitter polls, where people can ask him questions, and someone asked him, where did it go wrong? And he just replied with a picture of him kissing the Premier League title, and he went, where wrong?
It's one of those things, and it's you can go back to the early Chelsea Abramovich days where you saw Scott Parker going off there and a load of these players that you were just like, please don't go to Chelsea, because as good as you are, and I know it's a huge step up from Charlton, but you are not going to play here. And I just looked at Danny Drinkwater. I was like, you've just won the Premier League, and I understand that they're going to throw ridiculous money at you that even Leicester now as Premier League champions can't afford to pay you. But have you seen their team?
They're
not going to play a player with the name Drinkwater.
Two of ones that we'll finish on. Brazilian left back for Brighton, Bernardo's gone on loan to RB Salzburg.
They tend to know what they're doing with fullbacks, so he'll probably do well.
And Mario Mandzukic has gone from being a free transfer to AC Milan.
Yeah, who else did they sign? No, didn't they sign someone else on the same? Oh no, it was Tomori. Was the same day, I think. I know.
A couple of days later was Tomori's.
Yeah, I remember they were bringing him in, but does that mean that they're going to? Are AC Milan, and they're doing well as well, so I'm not knocking them. Are they going to play a front two at some point of Mandzukic and Ibrahimovic?
Yes, and have 31-year-old Rebic on the bench.
Yeah. So no, but I can't remember how old. I think Mandzukic is 35, so there'd be 84 years between them.
Yeah, because Ibra's 40, isn't he?
No, 74, not 84. He's not.
He's not 34.
Yeah, he's not 44 as I just did.
I know Italian football has always been a bit slower and more defensively focused, but God, it's turned into an old man's league, hasn't it?
I mean, to be fair, he's not done bad for himself to go from unattached to possibly winning Serie A and maybe even the Europa League if they try.
It is thrown off a little bit that one of those old men in Serie A is Cristiano Ronaldo.
Yeah. Cristiano Ronaldo, who's older than Mario Mandzukic.
Yeah, that doesn't. I know that is true, but it definitely doesn't feel true.
Yeah, the man has the body and the athleticism of someone about half his age.
Jack Wilshere getting his move to Bournemouth, which we all knew was coming because he'd been training with them.
Yeah, I'm just glad to see him at a club. I hope he does well. As much as there's jokes and stuff, he is he's an unbelievably gifted player.
Yeah.
And it's just such a shame. When I saw him at 16, it was when he first played in that Emirates Cup that they used to play pre-season. When I first saw him, I thought, well, there's England's midfielder for the next 15 years.
And his hamstring said no.
Because
he really did look that good. So I hope that he can do well.
I did see a report on it, though, saying England footballer Jack Wilshere, and it does beg the question, how long do you have to be out of your national team before you are a former player? Or is that just until retirement?
Until you either retire from internationals or fully retire from football.
At this rate, Mark Noble is known as former England international, but he never played, but he did formally retire. And young Tottenham midfielder Harvey White's got a loan move to Portsmouth after they played. Who did they play? Marine. Yeah, in the FA Cup.
All I can tell you about him is he was good on loan for Accrington Stanley on my Football Manager save. That's all I can tell you about him, I'm afraid.
Oh, yeah, and we'll talk. Robbie Gotts has gone on to Salford.
Yep, scored on his
Debut
debut
goal as well. Get in,
I knew
Robbie.
that I'd liven you up.
Love that boy.
Hey, if we want to liven people up, Tom Brady just threw a lovely touchdown pass for the Bucks.
It's for the Bucks, though, isn't it? It's not the same.
Yeah. If they win this, win the Super Bowl. If he gets them straight to the Super Bowl, having been there for ages, go somewhere else and then they're good, then he, he's already the best ever. If this just makes him even better.
Right, being someone who doesn't really watch NFL but took part in his first fantasy league this year, and I might add, won the fantasy league this year.
That does not speak well of your competition.
Yeah, Tom Brady's not had a good season at all. And he could still win it.
By the way, I'm just going to say that I know nothing about American sports, but the one thing I do know is if you're playing quarterback and you win, you've had a good season.
Yeah, 0-0 at the moment between Everton and Sheffield Wednesday in the FA Cup as well. So, before we do end, I'm going to play a quick Buzz commercial. This just shows you everything that goes live on the Buzz Network.
War. Tell them that's what we ready for. War. Tell them that's what we ready for. War. Bringing that to competitors. Till we see the confetti fall, be ready for war. Tell them that's what we ready for. War. Tell them that's what we ready for. War. Bringing that to competitors. Till we see the confetti fall, be ready for war. Tell them I'm ready, any opponent. The crown heavy and every minute is chosen. A path only fit for kings, and you don't know what this court means. What did you enlist for? If it isn't getting more rings, then you gon' have to switch your team. Trust me, it gets more mean. I'm a nightmare going up against your dreams. First step is explosive like a bomb hit. Bet if I let it fly, I cannot miss. And you ain't got a chance at the top 10 when you getting clamped all night by a locksmith. On the block throwing lobs to my top bigs. I'm a chef, no look, what's the top dish? Tie game, through the pressure as the clock ticks. Crossover, step back, hit a shot, quick. Tell them that's what we ready for. Tell them that's what we ready for. Bringing that to competitors. Till we see the confetti fall, be ready for war. This is how champions are made, but it never happens in a day. It's all hard work, but it's why what happens when we play 9 out of 10 times. I'ma left you with...
Yeah, so that's all the live shows that go live on the Buzz Network. The one thing that it is missing, though, is you're probably wondering why it does say Armchair Wrestler 1 there. That's the Twitter for our three's wrestling podcast. And on Wednesday, 11:30 GMT and 6:30 Eastern, me and Casey will be interviewing former Impact Wrestling X-Division champion Petey Williams. So, yeah, you need to make sure that you're around to listen to that because I'm sure it'll be a great interview. Maybe not from my point, but from his point, yes.
Yeah.
Well, Petey Williams is there going to be thinking, God, I'm so excited to talk to these British people.
Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, he messaged me.
He's basically, well, I mean, to be fair, he is basically British. He's Canadian, so he's one of us.
Yeah. Yeah, it's basically
One of us.
Oh. And so is America, for that matter.
The colonies.
But on that note, that'll do us for this episode of Stand Your Ground. As always, make sure that you use your code SYG2020 at manscaped.com and get yourself 20% off and free delivery. But I've been your host, Alex. I've been joined by both members of the Mighty Whites podcast, Jack and Casey.
In a bit, mate.
Cheers, mate.
If you want to check out more of them, go over to Twitter and follow them at Mighty Whites Pod. And we will see you next Sunday, same time, 7 p.m.